Every doc wants to make a bigger impact. What's getting in your way? You're tuned into the Subluxation Squad podcast. One squad, one mission. Chiropractic for all.
Hey everybody, welcome to a really special episode of the Subluxation Squad. Pacha, you and I have been really excited about this one, I know. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce some very, very special guests. We have with us today, not one, but 7 chiropractic college students. So guys, would you please go ahead and introduce yourselves? And just whoever wants to go first, let us know who you are and where you, what college you go to, and like maybe where you're at in school. And also, this is the student IFCO club leadership as well. So if you don't mind letting us know what your role is in that as well.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. It's a pleasure to be back here. My name is Daniel Knowles again, but I'm at Sherman College currently, 10th quarter student, and I'm the president of Student IFCO. So we have a bunch of different people here that are all involved with leadership for Student IFCO, whether that's on their campus or whatnot. We're really excited to have everybody here together, and I'll just go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves.
Fantastic. How about Dalen next?
Hi, I'm Dalen Franklin. I am also at Sherman College. I am also in 10th quarter now, and I am the Sherman chapter CIFCO president at Sherman.
Awesome. Let's see, Peyton's next to you right there. So Peyton, how about you go next?
Hello, my name is Peyton Griffin. Thank you for having me. I'm a Tri-4 at Cleveland, and I am the secretary of Student IFCO.
Awesome, welcome. And then why don't we go to the right there? Is it Elia? Right, yeah.
Hello everybody. My name is Elia Toscanelli, and I'm a student in Spain. I'm actually in Madrid right now. I just finished my shift, and I'm the European Regional Director.
Awesome. Welcome.
Very cool.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
in Spain too. Woo!
Hey. All right. And then Francis.
Hello, I am a 10th quarter here at Sherman College. I'm Frances Hawkins, and I am the treasurer for CIFCO.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mateo?
Hey everyone, I'm Matteo. I'm in my 4th year here in France, and I'm the France chapter leader.
Wonderful. And Dion? And Dion might join us later here. And guys, just again, heartfelt thanks for being here with us, taking the time. You guys are the future of chiropractic. And so we just want to really honor you guys and get your unfiltered opinions, right? Which that might be a little dangerous. But this podcast is all about understanding the subluxations in the profession, right? We have this beautiful philosophy of subluxation and interference that the body is designed to be healthy and not sick, and that it's interference that really causes dis-ease, right? And so that same theory applies to every human construct, and from politics to even marketing, companies' success. So what do you guys see as some of the biggest subluxations in the profession that are interfering with the success of chiropractic? And later we'll dive into where you guys see that it's all stemming from. Who wants to take that?
Who wants to get started here?
I can start. I would say what I notice going to Cleveland, I would say that the schools are one of the biggest subluxations in the profession. Several of my teachers won't even mention the word subluxation, and it's really frustrating to be learning chiropractic from those types of people. And I see all the people at Sherman getting just a broad variety of chiropractic, upper cervical, all that stuff. So I think one of the main causes is the schools.
Yeah, it makes sense. If the very thing that we say that we are uniquely addressing is not even spoken, that's problematic. And I can relate because I went to Los Angeles College of Chiropractic, where subluxation was laughed at, and it was, used synonymously with joint fixation, which we know is not the same. So, who else would like to share what they see some of the biggest subluxations in the profession holding us back?
May I speak?
Of course.
So what I think is one of the biggest subluxation inside the profession is whenever we talk to each other and we talk bad about each other. I think chiropractic is emerging in some ways as a new way of living, especially talking in Europe. And I see some chiropractors, even colleagues at school, but also outside, going to seminars, going to conferences, that they just talk bad about each other. And I think that's wrong, because I think it's like being in a family. I see chiropractic as being a family, and inside of your family, a functional family, you do not talk bad about each other. You actually help each other, you support each other, you inspire each other. That's what we do with IFCO. And I think this will, if not corrected, if not adjusted, will bring less speed to the process of the evolution of chiropractic inside Europe, but inside the world. So, that's a starting point.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, actually. So, Peyton was saying schools are a problem, right? At least some schools, because we don't teach what subluxations are. That's not even mentioned. And Ilya is saying we're a big family. We should support each other. So how do we deal with both of those problems, right? Like, do we support people that say subluxations aren't really a thing? Like, how do we keep it a family, with the weird uncle that doesn't really agree with everything the rest of the family thinks? Like, how do we deal with this problem?
I think I got a point for that. That's what I personally do. And whenever I talk to my fellows, my friends here, I have Matteo is in the call as well from France, for example. We go to seminar together. And what we strive for is to not to bring everybody with the same idea, because it's hard, if not impossible. What we are called to do is to recognize that diversity is good, is great, because everybody needs some type of technique, some type of adjustment, some type of approach. So I think it's great to recognize that there are many colors in the world. I am one color, Matteo is one color, Daniel is another color, and for somebody, that color would be perfect. So I think we should only agree on the fact that chiropractic is for everybody, and as far as we have spine and a pulse, as far as we have intelligence, we can make a difference, and that's enough. So that, I think, would save tons of useless arguments about I'm doing the best. Because you're doing the best, I'm sure, but for somebody. I'm also doing the best for somebody else.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. There are many colors, there are many flavors of chiropractic. I just referred my son to an upper cervical specialist, one of the best in the country, right? Our own family it's very difficult to be objective at all, right? But I don't practice in an upper cervical specific technique, and I want him to experience that type of chiropractic care. And so there is a time and place for all of that. I guess to piggyback on Pacha's question, there's always the weird uncle, right, in every family. But then there's the one who has maybe, they're in prison, they've murdered somebody. I'm not suggesting that's happening necessarily, but what about drugs and surgery? Is that person still a part of our family?
That's kind of where I was going with the question.
So I'd love to hear the thoughts on that.
And I would love to share my thought.
Awesome, Francis.
Okay, so To be honest, I think, you know, you can disown family members. And I think, I mean, I take a bit of a biblical perspective, but those who do the will of the Father, really, that's my brother and that's my mother. And so those who are on that same track of what chiropractic actually is, that's my family. The other people, they are non-factors, I think, and are not my family. They're strangers. And if you're not for me, then that makes you against me. So I think the middle ground has to be cut out. Back to Elliot's point about like how there's that family aspect and people are lifting each other up regardless of technique. I think that's a lot of what the IFCO represents, which is amazing that we all get to experience that and try to grow this thing as students.
I love the evolution of thought and acceptance, because you guys probably I don't think well, I'm curious. You know, there used to be this concept of straights versus mixers, and those terms were used commonly, and it was really nasty. Are you guys seeing? Are those terms being used? I'm curious. Do you guys hear those terms used a lot?
Yes, we use them in our daily conversations, and I think there's been a new wave of people accepting the term mixer. And going off of what Francis was saying, I don't think that we should be spending so much time trying to convince someone to be on our side. You really need to determine how much effort you want to put into these people before leaving them behind and going on with what you're trying to strive to get to and your end goal.
Yeah, cool. Any other thoughts, guys, on that topic before? Because that's a great topic. I before we jumped on, you know, I was encouraging us to have, you know, other students from around the profession, right? Not just CIFCO leaders, but you know, ACA leaders, or you know, WS, you know, all these different groups, just to have dialogue. That's something I know that I was not mature enough, which sounds ridiculous because I'm 48 years old. I was not mature enough to have dialogue with really intensely opposing leaders who held a different viewpoint. But now I just jump on the phone with them, right? And because I think there's so much value just in just treating each other as humans, number one, and it's okay to disagree. And dialogue is actually very healthy to advance our ideas in general, you know. And if we're afraid to advance our ideas, or you know, to have our ideas tested, maybe our ideas aren't that strong too.
Yeah, and to that point about dialogue, I think, you know, CIFCO is always open to dialogue. In fact, we would love to be invited to dialogue. The problem is that you have, you know, people that are strangers to us, our family amongst themselves, and they are having that dialogue where they're sharing all the same ideas, and they don't, at least from my perspective, I don't see anyone embracing a differing opinion or one that's contrary to them.
Yeah, Francis, what can you, I think you might be alluding to something. Can you maybe explain that?
I mean, just most recently, the NBCE had a leadership, I guess, weekend in Greeley, Colorado, and they invited SAPCA, they invited the student ACA, they invited student ICA, all of these. So ACA, ICA, those are both like policy-driven, politically driven chiropractic organizations. However, they neglected to invite CIFCO.
Yeah, so that's wild, right? Especially because you know, you guys are aware, but a lot of chiropractors probably aren't aware, and a lot of students probably aren't aware that the NBCE is, well, one, they just centralized Part 4. They're attempting to. They're about to have their first. Well, they're not attempting to. It's gone through. They're forcing all of you to, and every other student, to travel to Greeley, Colorado, to take Part 4, a test that is outdated, redundant, and the equivalent in the medical and osteopathic professions have been removed. And so that's one piece. But then they're also proposing to merge with the FCLB, and they're doing these town hall meetings, which no one can attend, and except for only their people and state board people. And then they won't even invite you guys. Wow, I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
I feel discriminated against.
So much for family. Yeah.
Yeah, rightfully so. Again, maybe you guys aren't considered family. Right, that's a good point there. Well, let's
I'm
move on to
curious
something.
why. So if we consider this a subluxation in the profession, why do you think this subluxation exists? What's causing
I
it?
would say that. No, can you repeat the question, please? I'm not sure I got it right.
So if we consider this one of the subluxations that you guys see in the profession, right? This like mixers versus straight and who is part of which family, kind of, you know. If that's a subluxation, which it is, like there has to be a line somewhere, right? Who draws the line? How do we draw the line? Who is part of our family versus not? Like all those different questions. Like why is this even a problem? I don't know if this is a problem in any other profession. And by the way, I don't know, you guys don't know me, but I'm actually not a chiropractor. I'm kind of a little bit on the outside. So, you know, I'm looking at it from a different angle a little bit. And I'm just curious, like, what do you guys see? Like, where is this coming from?
Pacha is your name, right? Pacha?
Yes.
I love that. I really love that. And I think, so to answer to you, from my perspective, is that I think that contrast is essential for growth. And I think that if you look that subluxation from that perspective, it can be really empowering because actually, whenever we talk to each other, whenever I meet somebody, a chiropractor in this case, and he tells me about something that I'm not 100% aligned with, I could be shrinking and going into myself and saying, yeah, he's wrong, I'm just got it right. Or I can actually question myself again and dig deeper in my ideas and my vision and my mission so that I get empowered and I expand. And as I expand, I also include and we grow basically, which is one of the vision I have for chiropractic is growth.
Your question was why, like, why the subluxation has occurred? Was that the basis of your question?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, why are we even having the discussion? You know, like it's
from the beginning.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
I think it's because it's been a subluxation from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you think they should have defined it better in the beginning, like what chiropractic is, and stuck to this, and not let other ideas slip in, or like how? Like
I think that part was inevitable, just because from the very basics of, you know, our development or our founding, like even that in itself was separated and had animosity. So I think whenever you birth a thing, I mean, if we're looking at the quantum, if whatever you birth a thing out of, it becomes a product of its environment. And we were birthed out of that separation and that angst. So we see it and we bear the fruits of it today.
Yeah, I would agree that it's much of it is unavoidable because we're taking a contrarian thought to the world, and and we also our original students of chiropractic were medical doctors, right? So they came in with their very different way of thinking, added chiropractic to their tool belt. And there was no internet at the time. There was no phones at the time. They were all given the charge of going out and creating chiropractic colleges. I don't even know the number of colleges that existed. It's a crazy number, right? That actually ever existed. And so, yeah, that division was very natural. Now, I think that the question we need to ask ourselves, though, is how do we move forward? Right? How do we, given that we can't change that and that different schools of thought coexist, how do we do what we really need to do, which is get the big idea to the masses? So what do you guys think about that?
I think it's kind of the same. And sorry, Dalen, you can take over. I think it's the same though in any profession, right? There there is some, if it's been around for a little while at least, there is some kind of tradition, there is some kind of original definition of it, and then there is evolution of it. So the question always is, how much do you stick to the original plan, the original definition, and how much evolution do you let allow? And I think that's probably true in all kinds of scenarios, not just in chiropractic. And I don't know, for me, it comes back to communication, right? Like Leah was saying, like we just need to bring everybody to a table and let's talk about it. And then, I don't know, somebody's got to decide, yeah, we agree on these things and we don't, we disagree with those things. Like this is okay still, but this is not okay. Is it a consensus thing? How would this work? I'm just throwing stuff out there. Yeah, is it like the most people decide? Is it the democracy, or like who decides this here?
Yeah, Dalen. So what do you think? How do we get this big idea to the masses?
I was just going to say, getting a part of groups like Student IFCO or becoming a part of the IFCO, where you and your fellows can go back to the drawing board and don't redefine things, but, go back to your terms and what you're originally using and why you are using those definitions, and then have that conversation of what you believe in and just discussing it at a level basis. And then when it gets to the point to where you are discussing this with other people, other organizations, you also have to go back to that drawing board and discuss these things. And you can't get so upset about someone else's view. You have to be able to be sitting at that table and have those conversations. We can't just continue to fight and continue not inviting people to the table or not having the conversations. We're just going in circles at this point.
Yeah, not inviting people to a table is a very firm line that doesn't do anything except typically create enemies and aggression. And so it's curious that that's the approach that our core not us, but our core leadership is taking right now. If anyone else wants to take a stab at this, how do we take this big idea to the masses? I'd love to hear it. And I also want to hear what are some of the big subluxations in chiropractic education, right, as well. So where do you guys want to, who would like to speak on either one of those?
I would love to give a take on the big idea after Mateo.
Okay, my point was to get to be established like yourself in your philosophy, anything, and it's really like into your practice. If you want it to go to the masses, you have to give it to people that are not inside chiropractic. You have to give it to people that are away from it. So it's your role as a chiropractor to educate them with what you're doing in your office, what you're doing with chiropractic, what's chiropractic, the role of subluxation, and I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, some of that cut out, Mateo, but really, I love the last part. It's the main thing. If we keep the main thing, then that's fine. Which the main thing is to bring the big idea to millions of people, right? So that many millions of people can be subluxation free and this world can be a better place. So what you do to do that is, as a chiropractor, you don't, be a predator to your brothers and sister chiropractors. But you are showing up and you're supporting the ones that are furthering the principle of this big idea, which is to get the big idea to the masses. So some of those organizations are DE, IFCO, and Mile High, just to name a few. I might be missing one or two, but literally might be missing only one or two. It's those small people that are not they're not charging, they're not trying to sell or do any other gimmick. to their chiropractic brothers and sisters. They're really focused on and honing in on how to serve the masses, how to clear a subluxation out of the masses so that this world can be a better place. And I think that's how we get the big idea to the masses.
Yeah, I would just like to touch on a couple things first. First of all, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but my name is Dion Fessenden, and I'm a 10th quarter student at Sherman College of Chiropractic, and I'm the North American Regional Director for CIFCO. But I just want to take a step back a little to the why to begin with. I think chiropractic, as Francis said, was discriminated from the start. People were being thrown into jail for practicing medicine without a license constantly. And then even after that, there was a whole lawsuit where Wilkes versus the American Medical Association, that it was proved that the American Medical Association was discriminating against chiropractors like we wanted in a court of law. So even from the beginning, we've been discriminated against. And so since then, it's become such a stigmatism that subluxation-based chiropractic is just quackery and nonsense that it's almost been completely disposed of and not even talked about in the majority of educational campuses. So besides the handful of subluxation based campuses, they're not even bringing it up. It's not a conversation, it's not a topic. And if it is, it's like a laugh about it thing. So how we fix that, or the way that I think that the best way to go about it, is to just plant tiny little seeds at each one of those campuses. And that's kind of what CIFCO is all about. Get one person who's on our team who sees our vision. And if that one person can start a conversation with one other person on campus, and that grows and grows and grows, that's how we make a difference. So we know that that's not even going to happen on the campuses. We're not going to get on campus clubs for most of these campuses. But even if it's an off campus club, how much more empowering is it to be like, hey, we're going to talk about something that the campus isn't talking about? And that's what I think the biggest selling point is get that one person who's on fire about it, just like we are, get them on each campus, and then see where it grows from there.
Yeah, I thank you so much, Dion, for that message. That is the way, right? Especially as what students can do. So students who are listening to this, connect with these leaders here. Like to get, if there isn't a IFCO club on your campus, see if you can get one. The sad thing, though, that Dion just shared, everyone, I want to make sure that everyone listening here, we bring it back to that, is that college administrators won't even allow for a club like this that's focused on the detection and correction of subluxation to exist. I mean, if that's not censorship, I don't know what is. And if that's the opposite of academic rigor, again, I don't know what that is, right? So I don't even know what to say, guys.
Dr. Steve, I want to see if Peyton can chime in with what he's gone through and experienced at Cleveland kind of regarding that.
Yeah, so last summer when I tried to start up the IFCO chapter at Cleveland on campus, it took about like 2 months just to get a response. And then the response was, one, the club did not coincide with our curriculum. And two, it was too similar to the ICA club that we have on campus. And that was just like absurd to hear. And it's just super obvious that they're just trying to discredit chiropractic, and our school in particular is just so more focused on like PT side of things that even like our campus ambassadors, when they're giving tours, they can't answer what the difference between physical therapy and chiropractic is. And it's absurd. So that's why I'm fired up to be a part of this team with all these like-minded people, because when you're grounded in your principles, that's how you make the most change. People see what you're doing, what you're talking about, what you're into. And I think like chiropractors and students, it's easy to be like a waterfall and just pour all this stuff onto people, like subluxations, green books, all this stuff. But I think an approach that we need to start doing is just to be a well of information for people to seek, rather than just spewing out all the stuff that we are passionate about and we know, because most of the people only care about school only care about passing boards. They don't even see the future of the profession or know where they're going to be in 5 years. So I think that's like a good starting point.
So I'd like to thank you so much, Peyton, for that, for sharing that, and for the courage to share that too. That's a courageous thing to share, and to stand for your principles and our principles in that manner. I'd like to just kind of recap what we've talked about so far here. We've heard Elliot talk about all the colors of chiropractic and acceptance and I don't like the word tolerance, because tolerance means that you're tolerating something. So accepting our diversity. But then we also talked about that within that there's some things that, like drugs and surgery, that should not be not be tolerated because that violates our core values. And then how do we help shift this as students? Well, we wake up other students. We one at a time, and we start to stand up for these principles in a way that's uncomfortable. And then Dion, you were leading towards a lot of students, all they care about is passing boards, right? And why is that? Because the system's designed that way, unfortunately. And then where are they going to be in 5 years? And I think that's really where we should move this towards. Do you guys feel like you are being prepared to succeed in chiropractic when you go out into the world? And if so, why? And if not, why? And do you think that your experiences are common versus your students, the rest of the students?
I think that we're being prepared to a certain level, but not prepared to the extent that we should be. So we spend hours in class every day, and we're taking the time out of our day to learn about like breast exams and prostate exams and how to conduct those, even though that is not chiropractic. When we should be taking the time to learn how to do drills and put a force into the body and more about philosophy. At Sherman, we do learn a lot about philosophy, and we take pride in that. But personally, I don't feel that it is enough for us to go out into the field and be comfortable in practicing that, because it is taken away by all of the things that we need to cover for part 1 through 4 boards. So chiropractic is being diluted in the school system, and there's nothing that the schools can really do about that because of the NBCE. And that needs to change, because if you want competent chiropractors, you need to teach them chiropractic. You can't be teaching them all of this stuff that we'll never use in our offices because it is not subluxation.
Right. And so I agree with Dalen, but to her point, like the schools are, kind of locked down right now by the CCE. And so that brings me back to my point, what I said earlier about like, who is my brother, who is my mother, like my family are those who are like on the same page as I am. And so that's who I'm growing from. Those are the elders that I'm watching. And to that point, I think I am prepared. For me, I personally have, like from the beginning of my chiropractic schooling, have gone to DE, Dynamic Essentials. And if anybody knows anybody about DE, you know that anybody who's anybody has at least stemmed from DE, or your mentor has. So I definitely feel like going there and like getting the principle and what it is, for what it is, and how to bring it to the masses. It, like, I hate to use the word grooms, but it just grows you up in such that way, like to where you can go out and serve the masses comfortably without having to steal from another in order to do it. And so a lot of, like, to me, a lot of chiropractors who are adding in all this extra stuff outside of our chiropractic scope, they're stealing, they're just trying to make the next buck. And I think it's a selfish thing that they say that they're doing for the patient's best interest. I think it's really selfish, and it's stealing.
I'm kind of curious, looking at it from the outside in again, which is probably not the chiropractic approach, but it's where I am. I'm wondering what you guys think about making chiropractic, because it's a really powerful thing, right? But the problem is that most people don't understand it. How can we make chiropractic, the philosophy, so interesting and so sexy in a way that everybody just wants to join it? So, like Peyton said, instead of becoming like this waterfall that just kind of overwhelms people, it's like here, this is why you have to, and all those things, just branding it right, and just showing up with this glow that everybody's like, ooh, I want that. I want what she's having. Like, what would it take to do that?
I'm gonna go with.
Go, please, Matteo.
Okay. I hope I won't cut this time. I'm gonna say that we can't. With what Peyton said and the waterfall thing, Elia once told me, if it's fed, ultimately it fades. So no matter what you're gonna do, chiropractic school, like as we picture it and imagine it, we can't like teach real chiropractic. You have to get out there and learn by yourself, inside out and not outside in. That doesn't work. So we are faced with two problems. So it's either like you go out there, you learn, and you get ready yourself to, the after graduation, or you don't. So some people, it's not for them to see the outcome, like in the long shot. But our role as a student that, get some of the outside thing is to step up and to show them what's possible with chiropractic. Those guys that only to pass boards and exams, we have to meet their needs. If they want to succeed through clinic, right? I think for every this it's the case here in Europe. I would bet that everybody here like succeed in clinic because they got to those DE seminars, adjusting seminars, and they know how to do it. Ultimately, people will see that and they will come and reach out and be like, okay, so how do you do that? I want to know. I want to succeed clinic. I want to have my degree. How do I do? And at that moment, you need to be ready to pour into them at that moment, because that's especially like reaching out for something that you need to give it to them because you know it and you know where to find it.
So, I love this conversation, guys, and we could do this all day and we could do multiple days and I'd never be tired of it. Francis mentioned stealing, and Dalen mentioned breast exams and prostate exams. Those, if that's not stealing, I don't know what is in chiropractic education. You guys, you all know that those courses are not free. And that's not only stealing from you guys, that's stealing from me and the rest of the American taxpayers, right? And it's being perpetuated by our leadership. They're stealing, right? They're stealing too when they make you go to part 4 when it's not necessary. And so, I in school, you guys are learning theory, you're learning skills, but at the same time, they're taking away from the school's ability to give you all the theory and skills that you deserve. Plus, they're confusing you guys by giving you these things that are so far from and contradictory to the theory and skills. And I think you would agree that, in all schools, that's what schools are supposed to do, theory and skills. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be great in business too. And so what I'm hearing from you guys too is that, well, we show up at other places, right? We show up and we understand this, that we recognize we're going to need more. We go to DE, we go to adjusting seminars, we go to these different things because you guys, ultimately what I'm hearing is you're committed to being great. So are other students recognizing that they're good, that they need these other things too? Or do you see a lot of students who are just set up for failure when they come out because they don't do all those other things?
Unfortunately, yeah. And so we're talking about something I've been on a current rampage on lately. So excuse me being so vocal about this, but like it is so frustrating because they don't. And I was like, when I was just saying that statement about DE, I was thinking like, you go to your family to get raised. You go to school to be educated. And so the school is doing what they need to do. However, who are these people's families? And a lot of the times their families are the chiropractors that came before them who are in the stealing business. And so they are like just perpetuating and like adding more of them instead of it being like more of the principle of that family. And so I'm also involved with the DE club here. So it's like my aim is, that's why I pair so much CIFCO and DE together as much as I can, because if students can get the big idea and see how much more valuable it is to just really hone in on being able to locate, correct, and analyze a vertebral subluxation, and that being enough, and knowing that you won't harm another person by doing that, then that's all it is. That's a good day. That's an easy day, a day of not stealing.
Nice.
I think that, just going off of what Francis says, one of the reasons that people are so set up for failure is because we're becoming, as a profession, glorified PTs. And so when we go out into practice, the PTs see us and are like, "You're doing what we're doing, and we don't like you." How much more powerful could it be if we did our own thing? We only located, analyze, and adjust vertebral subluxations, and then we are so confident in our skills that when they're subluxation free, we can be like, "Hey, you should go to this PT here. He can take care of the rest of it." That's what our profession should look like. We shouldn't look like a profession who wants to take care of all these things that we can't take care of. And the medical association, the PTs, everybody would be so much more apt to help us, to work alongside us, if we weren't taking their business directly. And so I think that's something that the majority of chiropractors are set up for failure, because they're being taught this in school when it should never be practiced.
I'd like to add something to that. We're talking about how the education system is setting people up to fail because of NBC, CCE, similar issues in Europe from Matteo and Elia, that even if the schools want to teach chiropractic, actual chiropractic, they can't do it. And then there's the schools who aren't even trying to teach actual chiropractic. And so the system is the problem. And the solution that we're trying to work on as students, that other people are trying to work on in the profession, I think comes through building mentorship and community among chiropractors. And that's really what student IFCO is about, is trying to bring people together to have a community across a whole network of students across the whole world that are on the same mission together, that chiropractic is for vertebral subluxation, and how can we all work together on that? How can we have mentorship and resources all surrounding that, so that we can make people successful, so that they can come out of school prepared, so that when they're doctors, they have that community, that network, that mentorship, and they can really be able to thrive in practice, learn chiropractic, learn business, learn all this stuff that they're not getting in school because the profession's failing them. So let's provide a light that can be on all these campuses for all these doctors around the world. And to something else, I think the whole straight mixer conversation, yeah, it's kind of still happens. I think it was maybe more of a bigger deal in the past, but really, I don't even think that conversation should happen at all. You're either doing chiropractic or you're not doing chiropractic. So we don't need to say straight mixer. Like, you're either a straight philosophically principle, whatever you want to say. That's what chiropractic is. And if you're doing something else, then you're not doing chiropractic. So there's so much what the issue is there's so much confusion within the profession and within the public about what chiropractic is. So let's be clear about communicating what it is. That's what the IFCO does a really good job about, and then we can move forward and be able to grow chiropractic.
Great. How can individuals get connected to the CIFCO? Who should they contact? Where should they go?
Okay, so I'll answer. There's ifcochiro.org is the main IFCO website. So this is for doctors and students, but then there's on the student tab on the website, you can like be able to read a little bit about what we're doing and reach out. We're actually working on updating that to have even more information. And then we also have social media. So look for us on Instagram, Student IFCO. You can reach out there. All of our names are on here. You can find each of us individually, and our contact information should also be on the IFCO website soon. So there's a lot that we're doing to put ourselves out there. There's also an event coming up in July, at the end of July, beginning of August. It's called the Student IFCO Triune. And this is an amazing opportunity for doctors and students. It's really focused mostly on students, but we're going to have vendors, speakers, all kinds of activities and events that are for all of chiropractic, whether you're a student or a doctor, whatever camp of chiropractic technique, you're welcome to come and engage with us. We're not like the NBC where we exclude people. So come, and that's happening at Sherman College. It's July 31st weekend, and we're really excited that I think everybody here is going to be there. There's going to be people from all different schools. There's 10 speakers, some of the best in the profession. So if you want to connect with all of us in person, be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'd like to just end how we end each of these podcasts with each of you sharing what an unsubluxated profession looks like to you. So in 30 seconds or less, and we'll start with Dalen and work our way across. What does an unsubluxated profession look like to you?
That would be stopping viewing chiropractic as pathogenesis and more salutogenic. So whenever you're in school, quit looking at it like, oh, I'm so tired, I have all these classes that aren't chiropractic. More so look at it as, I get to go to chiropractic school, I get to serve all these people and focus on vertebral subluxation. That's the end goal. So if you just shift your mindset, I think that'll help unsubluxate the profession.
Peyton?
I think just general confidence in our identity as students and docs to be, being confident that chiropractic works 100% of the time, and kind of like Dalen was saying, like you can view those other classes in a certain way if you want, but in the end, just being true to the principle and what we were founded on. So yeah, just ultimately giving unadulterated chiropractic to the masses so that everyone's subluxation free.
Awesome. Elia? Oh,
I see a profession where chiropractors are leaders for humanity, and they serve humanity through profound presence, profound love, profound gratitude for what we have been given, and from this also certainty. And I see this, and I fight for this. I stand for this.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dion?
Yeah, to me, it just looks like Principle 32, the principle of coordination. It would be a coordinated effort from all chiropractors around the world to preach and promote unsubluxated chiropractic, and that's it.
Beautiful. Francis? Oh, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
Nope.
Your connection subluxated, but we also know from everything you shared what it looks like. So, Mateo, how about you?
To me, it comes to be able to work into any offices and be able to receive chiropractic. Detection of subluxation, adjusting, and just leave it alone and subluxation free.
Wonderful. And Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody. Something that I want, like, there's a service thing, like, all of it is coordination is perfect, and we need all of that. Something that I want to say, that I've heard, I think it's from Reggie Gold, that in order for chiropractic to really thrive, chiropractors need to be the most successful doctors in their own towns and communities. So the best that we can do to build people up, and it's not it's not just financially, like that's an incentive and that's important for growth of the profession, but it's so that the image of chiropractic, what people see in their communities, how they see who a chiropractor is that they're the most successful, loving, serving doctor in their community. And if we can build people through try to get the schools better, but also through the mentorship and community outside of that, it would be an amazing profession.
Wonderful. Amazing, guys. This is how we do it. We speak these things into the world, and we work in coordinated efforts. And I can tell you without a doubt, in being deeply involved in chiropractic, politics, education for 20 years, that I've never seen us as coordinated as we are. I've never seen us as big idea driven and not ego and personality driven. So I think we're maturing into a new era, and you guys are leading the way. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here.
I agree. It's so amazing to see you all. And, you know, as I said, I'm not a DC, but I feel really hopeful for the world seeing you guys and hearing you speak about what you want the world to be and what you want chiropractic to be. So I'm looking forward to this for taking over the world with chiropractic.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye.
And welcome to the squad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.